It was a chilly winter day, and the snowflakes drifted gently down from the sky, covering the city in a soft white blanket. Alex, a young tourist visiting the city for the first time, could hardly contain his excitement. He had seen photos of the famous historical site for years, and now he was standing right in front of it. The tall stone walls, the grand architecture, and the soldiers standing at attention made it feel like stepping into another time. The air was crisp, and Alex zipped up his jacket as he walked through the snow-covered path, taking in the beauty of his surroundings. His mind buzzed with curiosity, wondering about the history and stories behind the ancient site. It wasn't just the history that fascinated him, though. There was something else that caught his attention: the guards. The guards at this historical site were known for their serious expressions and disciplined stances. They stood at their posts, completely still, like statues, never breaking their stoic expressions. Their bright uniforms stood out against the snowy landscape, and Alex couldn't help but wonder how they managed to stand so still for hours on end without even the slightest movement. Alex had always loved to play pranks on his friends back home, and as he stood there, looking at the guard who stood motionless in front of him, an idea popped into his head. It wasn't a big idea, just a small, harmless joke. He grinned to himself, feeling a little mischievous. There was a fresh layer of snow on the ground, and he noticed a snowbank right beside him. Without much thought, he bent down, packed a small snowball in his hands, and aimed carefully at the guard. With a quick flick of his wrist, the snowball shot through the air and hit the guard on the shoulder. Alex stepped back, his heart racing a little. For a moment, everything seemed frozen, almost like the world had stopped. He waited to see the guard's reaction, but nothing happened. The guard didn't flinch, his eyes didn't even shift. He stood there as if nothing had happened. Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He was half expecting the guard to snap and yell at him for such a childish prank. After all, the guards were known to be serious, and a prankster like him wasn't exactly on their list of favorite people. But instead, the guard remained as still as ever, unfazed by the snowball that had just hit him. The silence between them felt strangely intense. Alex shifted on his feet, unsure of what to do next. Was he going to get in trouble for this? Should he apologize right away? He didn't want to make a scene, but at the same time, he couldn't stop wondering why the guard hadn't reacted at all. Had the snowball missed? Maybe it hadn't even hit him. Or maybe, just maybe, the guard hadn't noticed at all. As Alex stood there, pondering what to do next, he started to feel a little awkward. The snow continued to fall, and all he could hear was the soft crunch of the snow beneath his feet. Little did he know, this harmless moment would soon take a turn that he never could have expected. Stay tuned for the next part, as we find out what the guard does next. Alex stood there, frozen in place, his eyes locked on the guard, waiting for any sign of a reaction. The silence felt heavy, and Alex's heart raced a little faster with each passing second. Had the guard even noticed the snowball? Was he just going to ignore it, or was something bigger coming? The more Alex thought about it, the more he began to feel uneasy. He had never expected things to get this tense over a harmless joke. The snowflakes continued to fall gently around him, adding to the peacefulness of the moment. He had been so caught up in the thrill of the prank that he hadn't even thought about how serious the situation might be. After all, this was a guard at a historical site, someone whose job was to remain calm, serious, and focused. Alex had heard stories about how the guards rarely ever showed emotion, and he had seen plenty of photos of them standing completely still, looking almost like statues. Maybe that's why he had thought it would be funny to play around. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something would happen any minute. Would the guard snap at him? Or worse, would he call for backup? Alex quickly glanced around to see if there were any other guards nearby, just in case, but there was no one else in sight. It was just him and the solitary guard standing silently at attention. Just as Alex began to feel a little more uncomfortable, he saw something that made his jaw drop. The guard finally moved. But what happened next wasn't at all what Alex had expected. The guard didn't march over to him with an angry glare. Instead, he slowly turned his head, his eyes still serious, and then, without a word, he reached down and scooped up a handful of snow. Alex's eyes widened in surprise. What was he doing? Without missing a beat, the guard expertly packed the snow into a tight round ball, just like the one Alex had thrown at him. He didn't look angry or annoyed, not even a little bit. Instead, he simply stood there for a moment, his expression still as neutral as ever. And then, without any warning, he tossed the snowball back at Alex. It happened so fast that Alex barely had time to react. The snowball hit him square in the chest, leaving a cold, wet spot on his jacket. Alex stood there, stunned for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. He had expected the guard to get angry, maybe even tell him to leave. But instead, the guard had returned the snowball, as if this whole thing had been some sort of game. For a second, Alex just stared at the guard, his mind racing. What did this mean? Was this guard really as serious as he looked? Or was there more to him than met the eye? Alex couldn't help but let out a small laugh, feeling a little embarrassed but also amused by the unexpected turn of events. The guard didn't say a word, but the faintest hint of a smile seemed to flicker across his face for just a moment. Then, as if nothing had happened, he returned to his post, standing still and silent once again. It was as if the whole snowball exchange had never occurred, but for Alex, the moment would stay with him forever. Alex, still holding the snowball that had hit him, couldn't help but smile to himself. What a strange, unexpected encounter. He never thought a simple snowball could lead to such a moment, and yet here he was, standing in the snow, completely caught off guard by the guard's surprising reaction. And little did Alex know, this small moment would soon turn into something much bigger than either of them could have ever imagined. Alex stood there for a moment, still holding the snowball that had just hit him. He could feel the cold wetness seeping through his jacket, but he didn't care. His mind was racing. Had the guard just done that? Had he really thrown a snowball back at him? At first, Alex thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the guard hadn't meant to throw it at him. But as he looked at the guard, standing motionless in front of him once again, Alex realized something. The guard wasn't mad. He wasn't even annoyed. In fact, the whole situation seemed calm, oddly calm. For a second, Alex felt like the world had slowed down. The snowflakes continued to fall around them, the air cold and crisp, and yet everything felt strangely quiet. There was a brief, almost peaceful silence between them, as if the guard's action had broken some invisible wall between them. Then, to Alex's surprise, the guard moved again. But this time, it wasn't like any movement Alex had seen before. Instead of continuing his post, standing still as he had before, the guard took a slow, deliberate step toward Alex. His eyes were still focused straight ahead, his expression as stoic as ever. But there was something different now. The way the guard moved wasn't rushed, and there was no tension in his posture. Alex felt a nervous energy rise inside him. Was this it? Was the guard about to tell him off? Was he going to call for security, or worse, make a scene? But instead of shouting or raising his voice, the guard did something completely unexpected. He reached down into the snow at his feet and scooped up a handful. Alex blinked, not sure what was happening. The guard was gathering snow. Was he about to throw it back at him? Alex wasn't sure what to think, but he was definitely intrigued. The guard carefully packed the snow into a perfect snowball, his hands moving with practiced precision. He didn't seem angry or upset. In fact, his movements were almost graceful. And as the guard finished shaping the snowball, Alex started to realize something. This wasn't a punishment. This wasn't an angry reaction. The guard, in his quiet way, was playing along. Alex's heart raced as the guard raised the snowball, his stance still perfectly composed. It was as if he were readying himself to make a throw. And then, without a word, the guard tossed the snowball back to Alex. The snowball flew through the air, heading straight for him. Alex had just enough time to brace himself before it hit him right in the chest again. It wasn't hard, but it was enough to make Alex laugh in surprise. He couldn't help it. The whole situation was just too much. There was no anger in the guard's actions, no scolding or reprimanding. Instead, it was like they had just shared a little joke, a small, innocent moment in the middle of a serious day. Alex stood there, stunned for a moment. The guard had done something he never expected. The man who seemed so serious, so unapproachable, had just played along with a prank, and Alex didn't know what to make of it. Was the guard showing a hidden side of himself, or was this just a simple act of kindness, a way to break the tension without saying a word? As the guard returned to his post, resuming his position without missing a beat, Alex felt a strange warmth in his chest. The moment was over, but it was clear that something had changed. The guard had shown him a side of himself that no one could have expected. And for Alex, it was a moment that would stay with him for a long time. As Alex stood there, still holding the snowball that had just hit him in the chest, he couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. The cold, wet snow melted slowly on his jacket, but the warmth from the unexpected moment lingered in his heart. He couldn't quite believe what had just happened. The serious, almost statue-like guard had just thrown a snowball back at him, as if they had shared a little joke. And then, just like that, the guard went back to his post, standing still once again. Alex's thoughts raced. Was this some kind of joke? A trick? He had always heard that guards at such historical sites were unflinching, serious, and strict. Yet this guard had shown a side of himself that was so completely different from the serious image Alex had imagined. It was like the guard had just let his guard down for a split second, and it left Alex feeling both surprised and amused. Alex looked around, unsure of what to do next. Tourists continued to walk by, admiring the snow-covered scenery, seemingly oblivious to what had just happened. The moment felt like a strange little secret between him and the guard. Nobody else seemed to know that, just a moment ago, they had shared an unexpected exchange that would surely be remembered. His curiosity got the better of him. What was the guard thinking? Was he used to tourists like Alex, always coming up with pranks and jokes? Or was this just a one-time thing, a rare moment of playfulness in the midst of his otherwise serious job? Feeling a little bold, Alex decided to take a chance. He took a few steps toward the guard, his footsteps crunching in the snow as he approached. The guard didn't even glance at him. He stood perfectly still, his eyes forward, completely focused on his post, as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Alex took a deep breath. He was a little nervous, but he couldn't resist. He wanted to see if the guard would react again. Maybe he could make the guard laugh, or at least get another reaction out of him. With a mischievous smile, Alex bent down and scooped up another handful of snow, quickly packing it into a tight snowball. As he stood up, ready to throw the snowball back, he glanced at the guard once more. The guard's face remained unchanged, his posture perfect, but something about the way he stood made Alex think that maybe, just maybe, he was waiting for this very moment. With a quick motion, Alex tossed the snowball. It flew through the air, aimed right at the guard. This time, he had no doubt that the guard would catch it, dodge it, or maybe even throw it back. But to Alex's surprise, the guard did none of those things. Instead, the guard did something even more unexpected. He reached down, grabbed the snowball mid-flight, and with a flick of his wrist, tossed it right back at Alex. The snowball hit him square in the chest again. But this time, Alex was prepared. He couldn't help but laugh, a full, genuine laugh that filled the air around them. This time, the guard didn't go back to his post immediately. Instead, he gave Alex a small nod, acknowledging the playful exchange they had just shared. Alex smiled back, still chuckling, but also feeling a sense of respect for the guard. This wasn't just about a playful prank anymore. It was about something deeper, a moment of connection between two people who, on the surface, seemed worlds apart. The guard returned to his post, his expression still as stoic as ever, but Alex knew that something had changed. They hadn't just shared a snowball fight. They had shared a moment of understanding, one that neither of them would forget anytime soon. The snowball exchange between Alex and the guard was meant to be a small, fleeting moment, something that would be forgotten in a day or two. But little did they know, it was about to become something much bigger. What started as a simple prank between a tourist and a guard was quickly turning into something that would make headlines. It all began with a few tourists who had witnessed the scene. At first, they simply chuckled and went on with their sightseeing, thinking it was just another quirky moment of travel. But as they shared the story with others, it started to spread. The tourists began posting about it on social media, uploading videos of the guard throwing a snowball back at Alex, with captions like, "The coolest guard ever," and "This is not your average tourist attraction." Within hours, the video had gone viral. People were sharing the clip from all over the world, amazed at the unexpected twist. News outlets picked up the story, intrigued by how a seemingly serious and stoic guard had reacted with such humor and playfulness. Headlines appeared in newspapers and online articles. "Guard throws snowball back at tourist. The funniest thing you'll see all day." Alex, who had initially been embarrassed by the snowball prank, now found himself at the center of attention. He had never imagined that a simple, innocent prank could turn into a viral sensation. His phone buzzed constantly with notifications from friends, family, and even people he didn't know, all commenting on the video. At first, he didn't know how to feel about all the attention. Was it good? Was it bad? He had only meant to have a little fun, and now, thanks to the snowball exchange, he was suddenly famous, or at least his prank was. He started laughing at the situation. It was absurd, but somehow it felt kind of fun. He had never expected that his silly little joke would reach so many people. The guard, of course, remained silent. He hadn't said anything to Alex after their little exchange, and he wasn't about to break his usual routine. But as the story continued to spread, people began calling him by a new name: the Snowball Guard. The video had captured his calm and composed reaction, his ability to stay in character even while participating in something so unusual. His cool, collected demeanor only added to the charm of the moment, and people couldn't get enough of it. The public, in particular, seemed fascinated by how the guard had managed to blend humor and professionalism so effortlessly. Comments poured in online about how the guard had broken away from the typical serious guard stereotype and showed a more human side. People from different countries began discussing it online, sharing their own stories about strict rules, professional behavior, and moments of unexpected kindness or humor. Meanwhile, Alex's phone kept buzzing. He read through the comments, most of them filled with praise for the guard and for him. Some people found it hilarious that a simple snowball had turned into something so big. Others applauded the guard for showing that even the most serious people could enjoy a little fun. Alex smiled, feeling a little less awkward about the whole situation. He also realized something else. The video wasn't just about him and the guard anymore. It was about the idea that small, simple moments could connect people in ways they never expected. What started out as a joke between a tourist and a guard had grown into a moment of shared joy that people all over the world were celebrating. It was a reminder that sometimes, even the most serious moments could have a lighter side, if only people took the time to notice. The story of the snowball had gone viral in a way no one had predicted. What began as a playful moment between Alex and the guard had now turned into something much bigger. The guard, who had stood quietly and seriously for hours at his post, had unexpectedly captured the hearts of thousands of people around the world. He was no longer just another guard at a historical site. He was the Snowball Guard, and the world couldn't get enough of him. The video of the snowball exchange had been shared millions of times, sparking discussions on social media, in news articles, and on TV. The more people watched it, the more they admired the guard's calm, professional demeanor, even as he took part in such an unexpected, lighthearted moment. The way he had thrown the snowball back at Alex without losing his composure was what really struck people. He had shown the world that even those with the most serious jobs could have a little fun, without breaking character. News outlets were quick to pick up on the story. Headlines like, "Serious Guard Shows Unexpected Playfulness," and "The Guard Who Became a Star with a Snowball" popped up everywhere. The media loved the idea of a tough, stoic figure breaking free from his usual role to show a more human side. The fact that he had done it so effortlessly only made it more endearing. As the media frenzy grew, the public's fascination with the Guard only intensified. People from all over the world began commenting on the video, praising the Guard for his ability to keep his cool while still showing a sense of humor. Fans created memes and fan pages dedicated to the Snowball Guard, with people joking that he should teach a class on how to stay calm in any situation. Some even started calling him a hero of sorts, not because he had done anything extraordinary in the traditional sense, but because he had managed to bring a little joy into people's lives with such a simple, yet powerful gesture. People loved the idea that something as small as a snowball could create a moment of connection between strangers, even in the most unlikely of places. Meanwhile, the Guard remained completely unaffected by the attention. He carried out his duties as usual, standing tall and silent at his post, showing no sign of recognition of his newfound fame. He didn't read the comments, didn't look at the news articles, and didn't care for any of the online chatter. He simply did his job, just as he always had. Despite the global attention, the Guard stayed true to his professional role. His fellow officers and colleagues at the historical site were proud of him, but also amused by the sudden fame. They saw how the media had embraced the story, and they couldn't help but smile at how such a small moment had caused such a big stir. As for Alex, he continued to watch the growing buzz with amusement. He hadn't expected his simple snowball prank to lead to so much attention. He had only wanted to share a laugh with the Guard. But now, the story was bigger than either of them. It wasn't just about a tourist throwing a snowball. It was about breaking down the barriers between strangers and seeing the human side of people, even those who seemed unreachable. Alex couldn't help but feel proud of the moment they had shared. It wasn't just his prank anymore. It was a symbol of how humor and kindness could bring people together. And as for the Snowball Guard, his calm professionalism had made him an unlikely hero, one whose moment of playfulness would be remembered for a long time. Alex couldn't believe what was happening. Just a few days ago, he had been a regular tourist, visiting a historical site with no idea that a simple snowball prank would turn into something so big. His phone had been buzzing nonstop with notifications, messages from friends, family, and even strangers all congratulating him or laughing at the funny video of the snowball exchange. It was overwhelming, to say the least. At first, Alex didn't know how to feel about all the attention. The story had gone viral, and he was now getting messages from people all over the world. Some were even asking for an interview, curious about what it had felt like to throw that snowball at the Serious Guard. Alex had never been a fan of being in the spotlight, and yet here he was, the center of a worldwide conversation. It felt strange, almost unreal. But as the days went on, Alex started to see the story in a different light. Initially, he had been embarrassed by the prank, thinking that he had overstepped some invisible boundary. But now he realized something important. What had happened wasn't just about him and the Guard. It was about the connection they had shared, even if only for a moment. As he scrolled through the comments online, Alex began to see that people weren't just laughing at the snowball incident. They were inspired by it. Many people mentioned how the Guard's playful reaction had brightened their day, showing that even the most serious and professional people could have a lighthearted side. It wasn't just about the snowball anymore. It was about breaking down the walls of formality and embracing the unexpected moments that made life special. Alex had also posted a message on social media, something simple but sincere. In his post, he thanked the Guard for his good-natured response and apologized if his prank had caused any trouble. He explained that it was all in good fun and that he had never meant to disrespect anyone. The post quickly gained attention as well, with people applauding Alex for his humility and good intentions. The more Alex thought about it, the more he realized that this whole experience had taught him something important about life. Sometimes things didn't need to be so serious. A little humor could go a long way in making people feel more connected, even if just for a few minutes. And that was what had made the Snowball moment so special. It wasn't just about a guard and a tourist. It was about a shared laugh that had touched the hearts of so many people. He also felt a deep sense of respect for the guard. At first, Alex had thought that the guard was just doing his job, standing still, showing no emotion. But now, after seeing how his actions had made such a positive impact, Alex realized that the guard had shown something much more valuable. He had shown humanity. He had shown that even the most stoic individuals could be warm, kind, and willing to connect, even if only for a brief moment. Alex knew that the Snowball exchange would be a story he'd tell for years to come. And while he hadn't planned it, the experience had left him with a new perspective on life, one that valued humor, kindness, and the unexpected moments that made life truly special. As for the guard, Alex would never forget how, in the middle of a snowy day, he had made a simple gesture that changed the course of his vacation and brought a little more joy into the world. As the days passed, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the Snowball incident. What had started as a playful moment between him and the guard had turned into something much bigger than he had ever expected. The video of the exchange had been shared millions of times, spreading across social media, news outlets, and even TV shows. The world had caught on to the simple joy of that moment, and it wasn't just the Snowball that made it special. It was the unexpected connection that had been formed between two strangers from different walks of life. For Alex, the experience had been eye-opening. He had come to the historical site just to enjoy the sights and learn about the history, but he never imagined that something as small as a snowball could lead to such a big moment. It wasn't just about the humor. It was about the way a simple act of playfulness had brought people together, reminding them that even in the most serious settings, there was room for a little fun. The guard, too, had become an unexpected hero. Though he remained silent and still at his post, the world had come to see him as more than just a figure in a uniform. He had become a symbol of calmness, humor, and the human side of professionalism. People all over the world had admired the way he responded to the Snowball, without anger, without harsh words, just a simple, playful act that made everyone laugh. Alex's phone continued to buzz with notifications, but now he felt more at peace with the attention. He wasn't the one being praised. It was the guard who had stolen the spotlight with his unexpected kindness. Alex began to share his thoughts on social media, thanking the guard again for making the moment so memorable and meaningful. His post was filled with gratitude and respect, and it was clear that the entire experience had changed him. It wasn't just about the viral video anymore. It was about the way people could come together over small moments of joy, even in a world that often felt too serious and divided. The media continued to follow the story, and the headlines kept coming. Serious guard shows humor and heart. Snowball guard becomes symbol of kindness and calm. And tourists' prank sparks joy across the globe. People from different countries wrote messages, sharing how the video had brightened their day and made them think about the little things in life that often go unnoticed. Alex never expected that his small prank would lead to such an impact. He hadn't even known the guard's name, yet that one moment had brought the two of them together in a way that neither of them could have anticipated. It was a reminder that sometimes the smallest actions can have the biggest effects. A snowball thrown in jest had turned into a story that would live on for a long time. And as for the guard, he remained the same as always, calm, professional, and unwavering in his duties. He never sought the fame or attention that the world had given him, but his actions had inspired so many people to see the value of kindness, humor, and connection in everyday life. The Snowball incident would go down in history not just as a funny moment, but as a reminder that no matter how serious life may seem, there's always room for a little lightheartedness. And sometimes, those little moments can change the world.